to right field, way up there, and way out of here!
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Phixated Podcast. I am your host, Mike Azzalina, and I am joined by a guy I really missed on opening day this year at the ballpark. Regzy Boo, I missed you, buddy.
I miss you too. I was very jealous of that picture you sent. Oh, very jealous.
Well, I got to ask, what picture did I send you? Because I was in a way.
You sent me the one of just the field, I think, like when everything was starting.
Oh, with the flag and everything?
Yeah. And then you sent me the one with the four of you lined up. Those were the only two.
Okay. Whew, I was in a way during this game. I mean, it was such nice weather.
Yeah.
Before we went in, we hung out the car. We went in. We immediately got more drinks. Just went for it. A very cool opening day for a lot of reasons, man. Like I always love all the pomp and circumstance. I always love the players coming in from center field, the flyover,
Yeah,
like all of it. It's all so cool. There was an added like layer of coolness to this year with BG coming out with the Lombardi,
yeah,
and then Saquon coming out. Just a really cool added layer, and the whole stadium singing the fight song with BG. And you just you get this feeling that this Phillies team just so badly wants what the Eagles have.
yeah.
The parades and the excitement and the glory. You get that feeling. Like you could see it on they kept showing, like they were going back and forth from BG to the players watching from the dugout.
Yeah.
And you could just see it on their faces.
Yeah.
Like,
Even
what would this be like?
Salisbury's last line of his article from that day was, "Don't think for a second those guys in the dugout didn't notice that shiny silver trophy that Brandon Graham was holding."
And the reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Like that place, that was the loudest that place got. Maybe aside from when Bryce Harper was announced during lineups.
Yeah.
Was the BG moment. And I'd argue it was louder. Actually, the Saquon coming out was also loud. Very, very loud.
I bet that place was packed too.
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of excitement, lots of energy. Sanchi was great. We're going to talk about all that in a little bit, but certainly missed you there. I got to see Doc. I got to see Brian Hamilton at the game. We're going to try and hook up on Sunday again. He's going to be there. So we're going to try and grab a drink together before the game gets going or once it started. It was a little tough on opening day because it's so packed.
Oh, yeah.
It's tough to, connect with people and stick around because it's, you're standing person to person, shoulder to shoulder, essentially. So we're going to try and link up on Sunday, but it was good to see him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
In person. So here's the thing. I've never met him in person, which is crazy.
That's hilarious.
Like he kind of brought that up to me in a text after the fact, but all of our interactions have been text messages or podcasting since I started doing this in like 2010.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That's really
Regz.
funny. Yeah. That is wild.
So just a fun little anecdote there. You can still create connection and meaningful friendships without being in person. It's pretty cool.
Go.
All right, man. Well, we got a lot to talk about tonight. We got the birds on deck here. The draft's in 3 weeks. We still got to decide what our plan is.
Yeah.
And we got 6 games to recap with a couple of early important April baseball series. Can you believe that? Like, already series that have meaning.
I know. And with teams that are coming in hot and some that are not, it's gonna. And
Yes, sir.
we'll get to this, how we feel about the Phillies after these 2 series, and all that good stuff. So we have some thoughts, or at least I do.
I think we both do. I think we both do. All right, so let's start with the Eagles, and then we'll jump over to the Phillies from there. Couple of updates free agency wise. The Eagles did bring in 2 veteran offensive linemen. They brought in Kendall Lamb, who can play that swing tackle position that they lost Fred Johnson to. Kendall Lamb has played in a couple of organizations. He played in the Houston Texans organization under Dave. Is it Dave O'Brien? O'Brien. I can't remember. Why can't I remember his name?
Isn't Dan O'Brien?
No, the guy who coached
Penn State, right?
At Penn State. Is that his name? Dan
I think it's
O'Brien?
Dan.
Okay. Either way, he played under him, who coached with Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
And then he played in Miami. And it was interesting listening to him talk about the difference in Miami and how the accountability wasn't the same. And I do believe this is a guy who's probably going to really enjoy playing under Jeff Stoutland. And he sounds like I sent you a video of him. I was like, I think this guy's going to be just fine in Philly. Very, very mature presence. I think he'll fit in really well. And he had to start like 8-9 games this year in Miami. So, he can step in and start games. So I think that's a nice little addition at the tackle position, swing tackle position. And then Matt Pryor, old friend Matt Pryor, coming back as an interior offensive lineman, sort of rounds out and deepens this offensive line room. I think they're in a good place going into the draft there. They don't have to force picks. If they want to make picks, they can. But again, another position group where they don't have to force anything in the draft. So that's a good sign, man. Nothing big, nothing major,
right?
But sound signings from an organization who continues to make sound signings, sensible signings.
Yeah, nothing. Again, we don't spend too much time, on a swing tackle and a second or third string interior defensive lineman. But I think you're right. I don't think, especially on the lines, the Eagles don't do anything unintentionally. So at least you can be confident that in those 2 areas, the Eagles are very intentional about what they do and how they plan for these things. So even though we don't know how the draft is going to go, we don't know how after the draft might go. I think if anywhere we can be confident, it's when we're dealing with them signing guys to those either side of the line.
All right. So with that being said, with the draft coming, we're going to dive into my second mock draft. And again, I put limitations on what I'm able to do in these. This one, I said to you before the show, is I would consider the most unrealistic of the drafts that I've done. And not because of the guys I took, more so the amount that I took. In this specific one, I allowed myself 2 trade backs, nothing else. And so I couldn't move other picks to move up. I really just said, all right, I'm going to trade back. Now, this could be a scenario where Howard uses extra picks to add or move into next year's draft in one way, shape, or form. But I didn't get rid of picks in this one.
Gotcha.
That'll be next week's mock. I just added picks. So let me just get ahead of it and tell you the 2 places that I did, and then we'll run through the picks.
Yeah.
I'm only going to highlight 5 guys where we're going to really stop and talk about them. The other ones we'll just glance over for the sake of time.
All right.
So the first one that I traded back from was 32. I got to 32 and I was like, I don't love anything here. And anything that I can get here, I can probably move back and get, at least positionally. So I traded the 32nd pick to Miami. And for some reason, Miami was willing to give me the following. A second round pick at number 48. So we moved back 16 spots, which is probably why I was able to add the rest of these. a third rounder in this year's draft, number 98, a fourth rounder in this year's draft, 116, two seventh rounders, 224 and 253. And then I got 2 picks in the 26th draft, a second rounder and a fifth rounder. So I don't know why, but they gave that to me and I wasn't about to turn that down. That's a lot of capital.
Yeah.
Lot. So when we got to the third round, our own pick, 96, I moved out of that and took a third round 101 and 195 from the Rams, I believe it was. So we ended, yes, it was. So we ended up with 13 picks to make.
All right.
And I had a lot of fun making these picks, Rex. I really enjoyed making 13 picks in the draft. So let's get into it. The first pick that I took was edge rusher from Texas A&M, Nick Scourton. I loved watching Scourton play this year. I watched a lot of A&M games because they helped Notre Dame throughout the year by winning and winning and winning. And Scourton's a tough edge. He's the type of edge that is very thick. He's very physical. His rip move is probably his best move. Has a nice little spin move to add to it. I'll tell you this, he doesn't necessarily play with a ton of leverage, so not a lot of power. It's more finesse, despite him being physical. He was a transfer. I do think for him, he's probably like my 5th favorite edge in the draft, which, if you're getting that at pick 48, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
The comp I've seen the most is Cam Jordan, who's a pretty good NFL player. If you're getting that with a second round pick, you're not angry.
Yeah,
right?
for
That's
sure.
a nice spot to be.
Yeah.
So, I think, he's potentially a first round pick. If he drops, awesome. You get him at 48. I think that's a huge steal for a guy considered to be the 5th, 6th best edge rusher in the draft. So that was our first pick.
I love the Cam Jordan comp.
Not going to complain, Regs. We're not going to complain about the Cam Jordan prompt. All right, so comp, not prompt. All right, so we go to pick 64, which is the Eagles pick. It would be their actual second rounder. And look, I had to do it. I love a good Notre Dame selection. Safety out of Notre Dame, Xavier White.
Finally did it. We finally got one. Got one.
I talked about it before, went and got him. Now, here's the thing about Xavier White, really, really incredible story. So his father is actually paralyzed. He was shot in some sort of altercation when Xavier was not even born yet. And so his dad's in a wheelchair, paralyzed from that incident. So Xavier's story is incredible. The way that he was, sort of brought up with that challenge afoot, and he was recruited as a wide receiver at Notre Dame, and transitioned to corner, back to wide receiver, and then to safety. And so he's become one of the better safeties in Notre Dame, recent at least, and probably one of the best that I've ever watched play the position. He's a ball hawk. He always finds himself in the right position to intercept passes, to play the run. He's got really good instincts. He's not the quickest in terms of safety. He's not the best tackler at the point of attack all the time, but he's in the right position, so he's able to slow plays down and use his intelligence and instincts. And he's got incredible hands. Again, he was recruited as a wide receiver, so if a ball is in his area, he's going to make a play. I think he led the nation in interceptions last year. So I would love him. He's a ball hawk, kind of reminds me of CJ. He can play in the slot the way CJ could. So an interesting pick at the very least there.
Yeah, for sure. I think with what that room needs, I think he's got where he is good now is something that they need. Like a guy that can cover still, good hands, is in the right place. You hope maybe he gets in the pros, maybe he puts on some muscle, maybe he like the tackling stuff, right, is a real emphasis. So maybe he gets better at that.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I was glad you said it. I thought my criticisms were the ability to come up and maybe he might be in the right position, but stopping that person, seemed to be a little bit of an issue. But again, this team, to complement Reed Blankenship, you're looking for that guy who's always around the ball, who's going to know, like, just have that instinct for it. And you hope that we'll, just like everybody on the team had to get, we got to get better at tackling. Like, you just hope that that's the stuff that comes with it. Also, getting on a strength and conditioning program in the NFL and all those things, make him a better tackler and a guy who can stop those guys. So I like that. I'm glad that they're addressing the position, and I'm glad of the skills that he brings, just like out of the box.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I will be excited to have Notre Dame player, and if this draft comes true, players on the team. So
there you go.
All right. Third pick is Josh Farmer, defensive lineman out of Florida State. This would be the type of pick, Regs, and we're not going to spend a ton of time, that if you are not extending a Jordan Davis, he's a natural sort of replacement. He's not the size of Jordan Davis or the freak athleticism that he shows, but if you're looking to add a run stopper to the room, this is his strength. He's not a great pass rusher. He doesn't do really well coming off double teams and pass rush. He'll eat extra guys. He can make tackles with dudes hanging on him the way Jordan Davis does in the run, but he's not going to be like the Mora Joma pass rusher, Milton Williams pass rusher. So if you're just looking to sort of say, all right, if we don't bring Jordan Davis back, here's our replacement. This is the guy.
Gotcha.
That's the guy. Okay. All right, let's jump to pick 101. The Eagles get their tight end, Gunnar Helm, out of Texas. I mean, I pretty much took him for the name, if I'm being honest with you. Now, pretty good route runner, good pass catcher, above average athlete.
What's the size and weight on him?
He is 6'5", 250.
Okay. Don't mind that.
He doesn't play well through contact, though.
Tough,
like sort of Zach Ertz in that way.
250 guy.
Sort of Zach Ertz. I think he'll improve in pass blocking. Again, he plays at Texas, or in run blocking, plays at Texas. They don't really use their tight ends in run blocking. That's not the way they play. I think he's probably, and here's the problem with him. He's probably at best a tight end too, unless you have true faith in developing and moving forward. I've seen comps to Dalton Schultz, who was a pretty good tight end for a while. And most people have him as a top 5 tight end in this draft. So in what I consider to be one of the deeper tight end drafts of recent memory, I don't know that he's the guy if you're looking for the Dallas Goedert replacement.
Right.
And after seeing the extension I saw today for Trey McBride, I'm assuming we're moving on from Dallas Goedert.
Yeah.
So if it was 90% certainty before this deal, it's 100% certainty now. So I do think they're going to have to take one before. I just didn't in the first 3 picks. There wasn't one there that I found to be the right pick. So this Gunnar Helm, it is.
That position will be one, and I haven't listened to PHOY from today where they went through tight ends.
Okay.
And it was like an hour and a half show, so they went deep. So I'm interested to listen to that. But this is really one of those positions where they're either going to decide to really prioritize it, and they're going to see like probably at that, I mean, maybe not at that 32, but maybe whatever they can do to finagle that last pick, like you said, maybe it's dropping down a little bit to high second and getting maybe the second or third tight end, in this class off the board for a true replacement of Dallas, which has been the franchise sort of MO. Like they don't really, they develop tight ends as such that like Dallas Goedert was a pretty good player and has turned into a very good tight end. I'm not sure they could take a really raw, like, I don't know if they've proven to be able to take a really raw one and like turn him into a top 10 tight end as they do with other positions, right? They're very good at it at other positions. This is just not one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be very interesting to see what they decide to do to fill this position in particular. It'll be very interesting.
One other thing to consider off of that, Regz, is maybe like they're just going to go with what's there at the position in-house with Calcaterra and the two players that they've brought in. Maybe draft a guy in the middle round and see if they can develop him. But remember, Dallas Goedert is technically option 3, 4 in this offense, right?
Yeah.
Like when you consider he's third in the passing attack, but 4 after Saquon. So what if the plan is, look, we're gonna now use Jahan Dotson as weapon number 3 in the pass attack, and weapon number 4 overall. We saw in the Super Bowl that Jalen was starting to trust him early in the game, so maybe they see the potential in that, and that's the plan for this year. And they wait on a tight end. I don't know, but when you look at their offense, there's enough there that if they don't take a big swing in this draft, that maybe it'll come down the road. So, but I did attack this later in the draft too. So,
all right, there you go.
All right, next pick was Tez Johnson, wide receiver from Oregon. Regz, I was so excited when I saw him because he's so quick and twitchy. He's more a slot guy than anything. So again, if you're looking at like, all right, let's take this guy that maybe we can bring into replace a Jahan Dotson. Now, he's not big. He's listed as 5'10", 165. I don't even think he's that big, if I'm being honest with you. His comp is Tutu Atwell, though. And Tutu Atwell's a pretty good player.
Yeah.
At this level. He's been a decent, well, he gets hurt. But he's been a decent player. I think that he's a potential starter in this league. I do believe that. And to get him at pick 116, like, I've seen him on some boards as a top 10 wide receiver in this draft, a top 75 player in this draft. To get him at 116, potential is potential, right? Like, that's what you're taking in these rounds anyway. So, Tez Johnson, wide receiver from Oregon.
All right.
And Oregon was a pretty good offense last year. All right, so then I moved on to pick 134, took Denzel Burke, corner from Ohio State, and a guy who I really, really like, a good run defender, a guy who plays really well in man and zone, which fits Fangio really well. I think he's one of the better corners in the draft. I just don't think you hear a bunch about him. I think he's going to be a reliable starter. I've seen comps to Tyson Campbell, another top 100, top 75 prospect in this draft. 6'1", 193. Can play press, can play off the ball. Like, I just think if you're looking to kind of build more depth in the room and he falls in your lap at like a 130, 140, you take it.
Yeah. Seems like a perfectly reasonable person to put into competition with Ringo.
Yeah.
And you just see what happens, right? You see what happens. And if that just makes him that much better and, but not the starter, then okay. You always need more corners than you think you're going to. And 100%. Competent ones, that's for sure.
Yes. Okay. So here I took Jackson Slater, interior offensive lineman from Sacramento State. A 4-year starter, he has played all 3 positions on the interior. Backup type player, not going to be a superstar in the league. I've seen comps to Matt Hennessy, who is fine. Like, again, if you're looking to add depth to the room, if you notice, I did not take a lane replacement in this draft.
Yeah.
I do take an offensive tackle in the draft, but not a guy that I see as a potential replacement for Lane necessarily. So I kind of liked this just because he was there. And I do think that the Eagles have a little bit of a prowess for like those small school guys. They'll take chances here and there.
Yeah.
So it just felt like maybe. All right, we got like 5 more, so I'm gonna run through them real quick.
All right.
Zay Alexander, corner from LSU. Another corner another guy who excels in zone coverage, press coverage, good size, aggressive, probably a mid-round pick, but ability to like track with receivers downfield. Elite speed gets him, but a lot of corners have trouble with elite speed. I don't think that's a secret.
Yeah.
Elite speed is a huge advantage. But again, another potential starter, another comp to Tyson Campbell. So, I don't mind corners who comp to a guy like Tyson Campbell because he's a serviceable starter in the league. So, again, you take flyers on these guys. If they land, great. If not, that's why you have so many picks. Jalen Reed, the safety from Penn State. I actually think if he didn't get hurt and missed this year, he would have been right up there with some of the safeties we talk about as round 1 or 2 players. But because of the injury and him not going back to kind of reestablish value, he's going to fall into the mid hundreds, 150 to 170 probably. If the Eagles want to wait on a safety, this is probably a guy to do it. He's very good. I honestly like him more than that. So I'd be.
What was the injury?
I really would. What do you mean?
What did he hurt? I don't know.
Oh, it's knee.
Got
it's
it.
knee.
Got it.
Yeah. Tore his ACL before the season.
Yeah.
So he didn't play at all this year. Which, obviously is a thing. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
He was a really good player before that. All right, so here's the tackle that I took. Jalen Rivers, tackle from Miami. Big dude, 6'6", 320. Kind of fits what the Eagles like. Really, really large. Always hurt though. Big run blocker, really good run blocker. Good pass set, but he can get bull rushed. Probably a backup at best. Some people see him in the 3rd, 4th round. People still see him as a top 100 prospect. Sounds like the skill set is there. Is he a stout project? I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
But I don't see him as a potential replacement. A flyer late. Mitchell Evans, tight end from Notre Dame. I love this kid. Missed a lot of last year with a torn ACL. Came back this year. Notre Dame's passing attack was not used often. But this kid was having one heck of a year before his knee tore up 2 years ago. Really good pass catcher. Really good blocker. Value got crushed between the injury and the passing attack sort of losing any kind of effectiveness this year.
Yeah.
So a day 3 flyer on a guy that I think could be really level, I'd be fine with this. And again, it's another Notre Dame guy. So Damian Martinez, running back from Miami. If there's ever a year to take a running back really late, it's this year.
Yeah.
I think, Damian Martinez, I watched play a couple of times this year, super explosive, bigger back. And I know they're trying to find size to match with Saquon.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you're looking to take a flyer late in the draft. This might be the one.
All right.
Last pick, Howard Cross, interior defensive lineman from Notre Dame.
There you go.
I really like Howard Cross. Big motor. 6-year player because of his grad year and COVID. So an older dude, but a leader, a guy who played through a lot of injuries at the end of the year because they were so banged up. And he just kept putting himself out there. And you appreciate a guy like that.
Yeah.
Who's coming out there and trying to play. So 13 guys, Regz. And anything that stood out to you there? Any guys that you're like, that would be, again, I said this to you beforehand. There's no way, right? This is not happening in a Howie draft. I know that. But when you hear or see this draft, any guys that you're like, if they walked away from the draft with like 2 or 3 of those dudes, I'd feel good about it.
I'd say one of those 2 safeties I'd like. I like spending a higher pick on one because I think you need talent there. Again, the tight end thing is going to be fascinating. So I'm supremely interested to see what they do there. And then it'll be really interesting to see what linemen they key in on. especially offensive linemen, because you know that no decision gets made without Stout saying yes. So I'm always interested in the guys they take, and then we can start to look into, well, why did they take this guy? Like, what about him fits with what they're looking for, and do they think this is the potential for just a replacement guy, or maybe obviously depending on where they take him, could it replace Lane? You would probably expect them to spend pretty high on a Lane replacement, considering what they usually do with those outside guys. But it'll just be really interesting because of sort of what we know their process to be with offensive linemen. So that'll just be an interesting thing.
So the three places where I feel like I want them to target in this draft, where I'm not going to say it that way. The three places where I feel like they're still not solved are right guard, tight end, safety.
Yep.
Everywhere else, I feel like there's a solution on the roster.
Yeah.
And if I'm ranking those three, it's tight end, safety, right guard. I do think there's a world where the right guard's on the roster right now. I don't think there's a world where the safety's on the roster.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a world where the tight end is on the roster.
Yeah, completely agree.
At least tight end 1. I think you have a bunch of tight end 2s. Safety, you can make a case for Sidney Brown, but I'm not there.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm just not there. So, I've mentioned on the show that I do believe there's a veteran in the wings for the day after the draft, and it wouldn't cost them a pick in the comp formula.
Right.
I think that's happening. But they're not solved there going into the draft.
Yeah.
They're not solved at tight end. I do think everywhere else they pick, there's at least something on the roster. I feel good about edge.
Mm-hmm.
I feel good about interior defensive line. I want depth, youth there.
Yeah.
Right. I think linebacker's another place where you can make the argument they're not solved there. But we'll see. They could make a pick at linebacker in this draft. They could also pick up a couple of veterans along the way. It could be Jeremiah Trotter until Nakobe Dean's back.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But a lot to be navigated through. And next week it'll be much shorter because I'm going to trade a lot of picks. We're not going to have as many picks. So
there you go.
Buckle in for that, folks.
Can't wait.
All right. And then, we'll get closer to it and sort of make our, we're going to do a positional draft on here. The positions we think they're going to draft.
Yeah.
And we'll do like points on that. So we'll do that probably the following week. All right. Regz, Phil's time.
Yes.
So we're going to do this a little differently this year. As the week goes along, Regz and I are going to pick and agree on 3 big takeaways from the week. 3 things that stood out to us in their games. Now, if a ton happens and we have to dig in a little more deeply, we will. If other segments come up, we will do those. But for now, we think this is the best way to talk about the team. So we're going to go ahead and do that because these will lead to deeper conversations. We'll also, like we typically do, preview the upcoming series and just talk briefly about the teams that are coming in or coming up. So our first big takeaway from this week, the starting pitching is really good.
Yeah.
Aside from one blunder, which we'll get to. Regz, was there a guy who stood out to you more than the rest? The obvious answer, I think, is Wheels for a lot of reasons.
Sure.
But is there another guy out of the other 3 who you're like, yes and yes?
I mean, obviously we've talked about my love and our love of Christopher Sanchez, but I'm going to take Luzardo. I thought, again, made a mistake or two. It happens. It's his first time like back pitching in a while, coming off that injury, all that stuff. I loved Gelb's article about him when he puts the glasses on. He turns into an alter ego. He's like, they don't even help. It's just what I do. So I thought that was great. I loved how fired up he was. I loved like 11 Ks in 5 innings. Again, I think they're obviously going to try and work him to go longer and longer. But the stuff was there. Like the 98 on the black is disgusting. I loved how fired up he was. I loved how into it he was. I loved that he looked healthy, like he wasn't efforting for the 98. He was just out there throwing. And I think from all the things you said like that, and everything that others have said about him, I'm just so ready to see what this staff can unlock with a guy like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like a guy who has all the talent in the world and just has been wallowing in baseball hell like for his whole career. So I'm just really excited to see what if there is a next step to Jesus Luzardo. Is there something they can still unlock within this guy who's not that old and is, oozing the talent, and I think the fire that he wants to be in a place like this and wants to pitch meaningful innings and wants to shut guys down when it's out there. I loved it.
So it's funny that you said, can they unlock anything else? I mean, the sweeper is a pitch that we just thought he was working on, and all of a sudden he's throwing sweeper after sweeper in this game against the Nationals, which is so cool. And I don't think it's not where he wants to be yet, but it was effective.
Yeah.
With Luzardo, and I was actually telling my dad this today. I don't know that we're ever going to get super efficient starts out of Jesus Luzardo.
Sure.
I don't know that that's ever going to be him.
Yeah.
Maybe as he matures, gets older, it could be him.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of younger Zach Wheeler, where Wheeler would throw a lot of pitches and be out in the 4th or 5th inning.
Yeah.
As Zach Wheeler has gotten older, he's learned that stuff's so nasty that people aren't going to square it up. And so I can throw anything for a strike and they can hit it. And I'm going to get into the 7th inning, sleepwalking.
Yeah.
Which he did in both of his first 2 starts.
Yeah.
And just with so much ease, and granted, it was the National and the Rockies, but they're still Major League Baseball teams, and he still makes it look like it's effortless. I don't know that Luzardo's ever going to be that, but I think we can all deal with 5 or 6 innings and 11 strikeout baseball.
Yeah.
None of us are going to complain about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with you. And the Christopher Sanchez thing, we're going to talk so much about Christopher Sanchez. Yeah. But I am going to let that breathe for tonight. I think he was good on opening day. He also had moments. They got him out of there earlier than I thought they were going to, but I understood it.
Yeah, I didn't mind it either. I thought he was a little amped up. I think he was a little excited. I think it was the right. Yeah. I think it was the right move. You could see he kind of, for those first few innings, you're like, all right, he's amped up about this. Mm-hmm. But I thought getting him out when they did was fine.
And speaking of amped up, can you imagine that place tomorrow with the Dodgers coming in and Jesus Luzardo making his first home start?
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
He's gonna be pumping 101. Pretty sure. Remember Wheeler last year against the Dodgers?
Yeah.
First inning against Ohtani, he was 99, 100.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate.
Yep.
But the guy I wanna tip the cap to tonight is the dude who won the game today. We need to give Taijuan Walker his flowers tonight. A week from now, we might be talking very differently. Doc, if you're listening, you were wrong about my first rant. Because he was damn good today.
Yeah.
6 innings, no run baseball. And look, I said this on a TikTok earlier. If you're not following at the Phixated Pod, get there and do it now. But I get it's the Rockies. Totally get it. Totally get they scored 3 runs in 27 innings. I get it. But do you understand how bad Taijuan Walker was last year? If that's your argument, You clearly didn't pay attention because that dude couldn't get a minor league.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Yep.
So let's just be and let's not just be happy because he did it. Let's be happy for the human being, Taijuan Walker, who has been booed countless times in that stadium. Like, he was booed on opening day, louder than some of the Rockies. No one knows who the Rockies are, but no one was booing anyone on that side of the field as loudly as Taijuan Walker.
Listen, I know you were there. That was a little scumbaggy.
It was.
By the fans there.
It was. And I didn't boo him.
No, I'm not counting you among them. I just...
Yeah.
That was a tough look.
All I said was, you know who's first, and you know what's coming. And Andrea looked at me. She goes, "Well, why are they booing him?" And I think she knows.
Yeah.
But I think she thought because it was opening day, it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And look, I get it. When he's not performing, we do that with all our athletes.
Right.
But on opening day, can we?
Yeah.
Can we not?
Right.
Can we not? So I'm glad that the fans today gave him the standing ovation. Philly fans are smart. They knew that was it. Even though he was only at like 78 pitches.
Yeah.
Topper wasn't going to run him back out there. They were going to end his day on a good note and just be done.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the right thing.
Yeah.
Now, he's going to pitch in Atlanta next week. Is he going to have another 6 innings of shutout baseball? I don't know. But for today, good job, Ty.
Yeah.
Proud of you, buddy.
I agree. I'm happy for the human who, by all accounts, has been a fantastic teammate from start to finish, even in his deepest struggles. Every guy in that locker room says, and his manager, who sometimes has to, but like you could see it. He was the guy up on the rail in playoff games, all that stuff. By all accounts, has been a fantastic guy through all of this. And look, there's plenty of guys who would have just taken their money, done their same offseason that they always do, and just been like, look, it comes back if it comes back. He's clearly worked hard and bought into what they've asked him to do. And to your point exactly, if you're giving us like the whole, it's the Rockies and they're terrible, like he couldn't get my son's 10U team out last year. Like, he wasn't getting anybody out. Anybody. Yeah. I don't care who you threw out there. So just the fact that he could come back and do it, and he was like, you could tell he was excited about it. There's been some articles about this. His mom was in the stands and got emotional after the standing ovation after he was done, because obviously she's seen what he's been going through. And look, I don't care if it's the Rockies. Sometimes it's like basketball. You just need to see the ball go through the hoop. And it unlocks something. Like, it's so much about confidence and your ability to do it that, okay, who cares? If it unlocks something and he goes down and pitches 6 innings of even 3 or 4 run baseball in Atlanta, you will take that out of Taijuan Walker all day long.
Yep.
So, yeah, I thought it was great.
I asked a buddy today, like, what's your hopeful line for Ty? And it was like 5 innings, 4 runs. And I said 4 innings, 4 runs. And then you pass it off to like Ross and hope that you make it the rest of the way.
Yeah.
But, if you were coming into today saying, it's a scheduled loss, it's Taijuan Walker day, then you can't make the argument on the other side, well, it's just the Rockies.
Yeah,
like,
right.
If you thought they were going to lose because he's on the mound, you can't say, it's just the Rockies.
Right.
The last thing that I think we need to talk about is like, Aaron, I sold your spring performance and you proved me right in the first start. Like, you didn't even wait. Like, you didn't even wait. Like, I wish there was a rule in baseball that you could pull a pitcher for 1 inning and reinsert that pitcher.
Yeah.
Like,
he'd never pitch a 4th inning ever again.
Even with 2 outs and not a runner on base, I was still sitting there like, 4th inning still happening.
Oh, as soon as he hit the guy, you're like, this can only end badly now.
Yeah. I don't understand it.
I don't get it either. Apparently, it came. Gelb said on his podcast that Aaron admitted, like, I didn't like the pitch, and he just didn't. He's like, he admitted, he's like, I should have just taken the ball for the timer violation and just reset instead of throwing the pitch he did to hit the guy in the foot. That kind of led to everything.
I mean, he could also just step off.
Yes.
Like, just step off and take a... Well, with nobody on base, I don't think he can.
You get disengagement still, don't you?
I don't know. I'd have to look at that. I don't
sure
know that you do with... Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
I actually don't know if you do with nobody on base. We'll have to look that up. And either way, the point remains. You either take the ball or you step off. Like, if you don't like the pitch, and I don't know. I love Aaron, man. I do. I love so much about Aaron. But, like, those types of moments, it's like, I don't want the excuse. I don't want that, well, I should have or I didn't. And,
yeah. It was very Aaron-y. It was very Aaron-y.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, come on. Like,
it's 10 years, man. Like,
I know.
Like, we love you. Like, Aaron Nola, Brian said it on the show last week when we were previewing. The lock of the century is Aaron Nola making 30 starts.
Yeah.
It's a freaking lock.
Yeah.
But, like, and he also said it's a roller coaster. Some, he's totally dominant. Others, that's what happens. Like, the first 3 innings, I'm watching Aaron Nola pitch, and everything is hitting the bottom line of that zone.
Oh, yeah.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, and when he ran that 2-seamer back, it was nipping the corner of the zone. And then all of a sudden,
yeah, it just...
And there wasn't a bigger lock than Josh Bell hitting a ball 400 feet.
Yeah.
I knew immediately when he came up that Aaron was going to elevate a fastball, and it was not going to land.
Yeah.
Just tough, man. And,
it was.
And, you always want to believe in Aaron, but it's hard. You just don't know when that implosion.
I know.
You just don't know. So, all right. Takeaway number 2 from this week. This offense against starting pitching. The only like legitimate starting pitcher that they faced in the first 6 games is Mackenzie Gore.
Yeah.
The Parker kid from Washington, he's got pretty good stuff. I'm not gonna pull punches. He's not great by any means. He's got good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And all the guys they faced in Colorado, it feels like those 3 guys have all been there forever.
Yeah.
Nothing new.
Right.
All guys that I feel like we see whenever we face them. And for some reason, the Phillies early, was it you who texted me today yesterday that they're doing the whole Eagles thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just doing the whole like they're
oh my God.
Maybe it's a good sign, Regz. Maybe that's a good thing.
I mean, sure. Yeah,
we went through it and then won a Super Bowl.
We can go with that. Sure. Listen. Yes, it's annoying. I'm less annoyed, like, weirdly, I'm less annoyed if through 3 innings they just kind of have gone down in order. I'm more annoyed, like, in the past, in a couple of these games where they're in the second or third time through the lineup and they're getting guys on base and then they're just like shitting the bed. Like, in situations that, like, God, you could you could get to the bullpen that you cream in the 4th inning if you would just like come through with a couple hits here or there in the first few innings. It's weird. I'm not sure if I love the bit, but if we're going to go with that it led the Eagles to the Super Bowl, then sure. Yeah, let's go with that.
That's the bet. That's the one we're going with. I will hear nothing of it.
It's just very weird and hilarious. Like someone tweeted just tonight, like the runs they've scored in each inning. And it's just like 0, 0, 0 for the first. And then it's like 5, 6, 11. It's like 7. It's really funny.
It is crazy when you think about like how it's sort of played itself out early in the year compared to the Eagles and all that stuff. They're beating that crap out of bad bullpen.
Yeah.
The problem is at some point this weekend, you're going to run into a good team with good starting pitching and good relief pitching.
Right.
So you're not going to be able to lean on getting into a bad bullpen.
Yeah. And you kind of have to take advantage of your opportunities when you get them against starting pitchers. Like, you got to do something about it.
Now this is the bad thing to say, because this is what we didn't. But there is something to, like, all right, well, we opened the season with the Nationals and the Rockies, and we could coast to 5 wins.
Yeah.
And they did. They coasted.
Yes.
They coasted. They kind of did what they wanted and coasted. Starting pitching wise, offensive wise.
Yeah.
Can they turn it on? We're about to find out. This is as big of an early season series as you're going to get coming up this weekend. And you're going to have a packed house all 3 days. You got a night Friday, a mid-afternoon Saturday, and a 1:35 Sunday. You're going to be packed out all 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Stadium's going to be electric. So can you turn it on? We're about to find out. I'll tell you this, Regz. 1 or 2, the role players on this team turned it on this week. I want to talk about one specifically. We can talk about a couple, obviously. Talk about Yohan Rojas, who had a really nice game last night.
Yeah.
Couple of singles, stolen base. When he gets on base, he's a nightmare. It looks like he learned how to bunt.
That would be wonderful. Finally.
He bunted. I'm pretty sure he bunted for a base hit and sacrificed last night.
Mm-hmm.
Stole a base, scored a couple of runs. Was just a menace once he got on the bases. But the guy I really want to talk about, who's a menace all the time, is Edmundo Sosa. 9 for 14 this year.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable.
2 of the biggest hits of the season so far.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a dude who is just doing the stuff right now.
Yeah.
The big home opener hit, and then the big hit he broke the Colorado Rockies 2 days in a
Yeah.
row. Was a little surprised he didn't start today. Thought they'd find a place for him.
Yeah.
Just because he's so red hot.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't. And that's okay. But just something that I thought was a little odd.
Yeah.
I don't know that we can say enough about the energy that Edmundo plays with, Regz. I think the guys all love him. You know, his energy when he gets the big hit. It always seems to be a double.
Yeah.
Always seems to be a double.
Yeah.
And he always does, like, the Degeneration X, you know, crotch chop thing. And, like, Topper said the other day, it doesn't feel like Edmundo ever has a bad day.
Yeah.
It just feels like the guy shows up and he's happy all the time. And you need guys like that. You know, everybody talks about losing the Chiefs vibe off. Maybe they didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Edmundo.
Maybe it's been Edmundo the whole time. Yeah, it's been great. I think everyone loves him. It's like him having this kind of success is such like icing on the cake, because you just want him to come in, play good defense, and just not be like a zero when he has to hit. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So again, 9 for 14 is like unreal. And the job again, does he get overexposed when he plays too much? Yes. But the job that this guy has done to sort of not take the pressure off, but like you said, jumpstart this team. Like when Trey goes down with the hamstring thing, his first few weeks, like his first week or two are just fantastic. Like pulls the team out of this. Oh no, our starting shortstop's out, right? For a month. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This, like, oh, we come up with the bases loaded, our 2-3-4 hitters strike out. Oh, we're back in that place. Edmundo, right? Of course, is the guy that does it. I think the fan base loves him because of, like you said, because of his attitude, because of how hard he plays, because of when he comes in, he's ready to go. It's just great. It's just awesome. Like you can't not smile. And it's just been really good. Like the hits have been good, like just really good, professional hitting. Like taking that pitch he took for the double to right center is great. Like that swing was so good. And back to like you talked about sort of the coasting thing. Like Edmundo doesn't coast. Edmundo, if he's in the game, it's 1,000%.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. Which again, we talked about this in our season preview. Like, I don't want to coast. I want to beat the Rockies and the Nationals like 12-2 every game. Because you should. Right?
Yeah.
It's like when the Celtics play the Nets. They're not gonna lose. They're gonna beat them by 30 and they're gonna go home. Because that's what they should do. Like we've talked about this. I want this team to be that way. So you don't have to like get all hyped up for the Dodgers. You can get a little more excited. You're going to be a little more excited with, like you said, the place is going to be packed. The Dodgers are the Dodgers, especially now they're undefeated. Like, I don't want these massive swings like, oh, we just played the Rockies and the Nationals. Oh, now we got to get up for the Dodgers. And then we're going to go back to this team. And then we're going to be up for this team. Like this, right? We talked about this. Steadiness, and then you just have to go a little bit one way or the other. So I yeah, to the point that Edmundo played great. I love that Rojas, again, I think it's a confidence thing with him. You essentially, they gave you a chance to be the starter last year. They gave you a long leash with it. And like ultimately they decided like it's not, still got stuff to work on, kid. And I think he's taken the right approach. I think he's worked on the things he's needed to work on. His approach looks better. I still wish his swing was shorter, but look, hey, if we're getting bunts down, I don't care. Like, go nuts, man. If you're getting bunts down when you're supposed to, fantastic. Because as we've said many times, like guys like that, even if it's a sacrifice, pitchers are thinking about that play because of how fast he is. Like you have to be almost, perfect, and you have to execute, and it doesn't always go right. So I'm very happy that they've been playing well and that they're starting the season with this kind of confidence.
Yeah, I think all across the board, I agree with all of that. And I don't know, another guy that I think we need to at least mention in passing. He's not what I consider to be a bench role player, but I think he's considered a role player on this team, is Max Kepler. Early returns, he's been on base in every game he's played. Another guy who I don't know that he's necessarily a role player, but I think needs to be mentioned.
Yeah.
Nick Castellanos, who, has walked more already this year in the first week than I think he did in the first month last season.
Yeah.
I don't know, did he strike out today? If he struck out today, I think it's like only the second time.
I believe he did, yes.
Did he strike out today? I feel like I remember him striking out today when I was listening to the game. Yeah, he struck out twice today, which I think doubles his season total. But it does feel like certain dudes, and I'll go back to Kepler because he's newer to the team. I think the approach, the at-bats are sort of what we want to see from everybody. He's not gonna get a hit every time. It's just not possible, and we need to know that. But what we've seen from him so far is, the guy at 278 with a 970 OPS. We'll take that if that's going to be the year, which is a very doable season. Like it's not like overreaching that's what he does this year.
Yeah.
270 with a 950 OPS is very possible if he's healthy. And that's a role player type of thing. And look, guys will come and go. And, I said this on the TikTok. We're going to get plenty of Bryce moments. We're going to get plenty of Bohm big hits. We're going to get a lot of Schwarbombs. But Edmundo nights are still really important nights.
Yeah.
He was the hero yesterday. He was the hero on opening day. And you're going to need those guys to step up and have those types of nights.
I just hope Kepler keeps hitting the ball hard. You're not, like you said, you're not going to get a hit every time. He's going to strike out some. He's going to, right? It's baseball. I just want, I want to see him keep, when he does get make contact, that he keeps hitting the ball hard. That was one of the big things that everyone talked about. He was, injured last year. The exit velocity was really down because of the type of injury he had. You want to make sure he's being healthy, swinging it good, hitting it hard. And that's what he did during the spring. It's what he's been doing. It's what he's been doing so far. There might be just one or two times where it's been weak contact.
Yeah. It's been good to see. So 5-1 coming out of the first 6 games. I think we would have signed up for that. I think, we knew sweeping 2 series to start the year was going to be not really a thing. The Nationals are going to be a very annoying year. I've said that many times that I believe they might even contend for a wild card in the next year or so. I think they're young, they're annoying. They're gonna probably play 333 baseball.
Yeah.
They're gonna beat you 1 out of every 3 times. And the Rockies stink. So the Phillies did exactly what they should have done and sweep them.
Yeah.
I don't think you're gonna sweep the Nationals many times just because they're simply annoying.
Yeah.
Their lineup has enough guys that can hurt you at any given moment.
Mm-hmm.
But the Phillies are winding up for a weekend series with the best team in the entire sport.
Yeah.
They win a World Series and they start the year 8-0. And not like a boring 8-0.
Yeah.
They're doing things in LA.
Yeah.
They're doing stuff. So let's talk through. So they have their next 6 games. They have the Dodgers this weekend, off on Monday, to Atlanta for 3. Let me give you the pitching matchups for both of these series, and then we'll talk about them separately.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's do LA first, and then we'll go to Atlanta.
Okay.
Here are the pitching matchups for the weekend with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Jesus Luzardo against Yamamoto tomorrow. Got Aaron Nola against Sasaki on Saturday. And then Sanji and Glasnow on Sunday. Now, recently, within the last 2 hours, we've read that Freddie Freeman will go on the IL. So the Phillies will not see Freddie this weekend. Darn.
Yeah. Again, we love Freddie as a human, so it stinks that he's on the IL. But, we won't see one of the most infamous Phillies killers in our recent history. Darn.
Yeah. Going to the game on Sunday. I love watching Freddie play.
Yeah.
But I'm not
interested to see him hit 700 for the series.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lose my mind about watching him work every count to 3-2 and then ripping a ball into the right field corner. 4 times. So here's the thing. I will tell you right now that these first 2 pitchers are going to hear it.
Oh, yeah.
On Friday and Saturday. Like, Tyler Glasnow, Phillies fans don't really care about. But if there's one thing Phillies fans do care about, it's when you, basically don't like our city. And they take these 2 guys as 2 guys who didn't want to come here. I don't know about Yamamoto and his emotions.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't watched him enough. But I did see a lot of video and pictures of Sasaki having a really hard time.
Yeah, he was struggling
after that start. And it ain't going to be easier on the road, guy.
Yeah.
Especially at Citizens Bank Park.
Mm-hmm.
I know you probably, I understand that English probably he's not fluent in English.
Yeah.
But I can tell you right now, he's fluent in booze. and there's going to be a lot of that when he's warming up in the bullpen at Citizens Bank on Saturday afternoon. Because 4:00 is the perfect time for Phillies fans.
Yeah.
They get a nice start to their day drinking at a bar, and then they tailgate. And they're going to come ready on Saturday.
Especially for a dude who struggled in his first start.
Especially for a dude who they feel like flaked them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the Phillies were in on Yamamoto and Sasaki.
Mm-hmm.
And if Phillies fans don't like feeling slighted.
Yeah.
They don't. And both of these dudes said no to coming here. So good luck, guys. It's going to be loud there.
Yeah.
And there's going to be 46,000 people there.
Yep.
So good luck. Good pitching matchups all weekend.
Yeah.
Like I said before, this is as big of a series as April gets. Now, look, I'll be honest with you. If they win one of these games and drop 2, I'm fine starting the year 6-3, Regz. I'm good with it. But I would love to see 2 of 3.
Yeah.
I would love that.
I'd love 2 out of 3 too. I think you can beat these first 2 guys. I don't doubt Glass now comes out and pitches well. And Sanchez might pitch well. And look, the Dodgers are very good. You're just going to lose a game to the Dodgers. They're just a good team. It's going to happen.
And they're due.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Even on your best day, right? A pitcher's going to lose to the Dodgers. It is what it is. So nothing against Sanchez. One of them, it's going to be a loss. Lose. Yes.
Yeah. One of these 3 is going to lose. I don't know if it'll be Sanchi. I don't know if it'll be Knowles or it'll be Luzardo. One of them's going to lose again.
Mm-hmm.
The Dodgers are just that good.
Yes.
I think the Phillies did a really nice job last year with Ohtani.
Yeah.
They did not let him beat them.
Mm-hmm.
They handled Will Smith well last year. When they played the Dodgers, Mookie Betts was not healthy.
Yeah.
They missed Mookie Betts in both series. They will not miss Mookie Betts in this series.
Yeah.
And just, for Phillies fans who have joined the cult over the last, 2 years, Mookie Betts is really good. So buckle in
to
watch one of the best players in baseball play for 3 days. That's a dude you don't shut down.
Yep.
So it's going to be, I will tell you this. I think that the Phillies pitching can neutralize their left-handed hitting. Sanchi and Luzardo, what might give them fits from a left-hander's perspective.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Knowles, God only knows. But Regz, I feel like 2 of 3 is doable, but I'm good if they just don't get swept this weekend.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there.
Then you go to Atlanta, a team who has had the exact opposite start of the LA Dodgers. But I caution you, Phillies fans, it's way too talented of a roster to not be able to get back up off the mat. And they have a weekend series with a Marlins team that they can beat. It's, the Marlins are sitting in second place, but we know that's fool's gold beginning of the season.
Yeah.
The Braves get to go home. Starting on the West Coast was unfair to begin with. Starting on the West Coast against 2 of the better teams in baseball, kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So not a reflection on the Braves, more a reflection on the schedule.
Yeah. That's one where I say, just give me one. Don't, for whatever reason, we're going to be in Atlanta. They know, right? They know the Phillies. They're not, nothing uncomfortable about it. Again, would I love 2 out of 3? Of course I would.
Yeah.
Wheels will be going, so I think you got one. Again. You hope.
It's wheel or sail.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, it's wheel or sail. I think I do believe the way the pitching matchups go, you could win 2 of 3 in Atlanta, and I don't want to lose 2 series in a row. Like I don't want to start that train.
Yeah.
So if they do lose the Dodgers series, I would like to go to Atlanta.
Sure.
And win that series. Atlanta is, well, they're still a good baseball team. They're not where they're going to be in a few months. This is a time to beat them.
Yeah.
They're Spencer Strider still injured. They just lost what's his name to the IL. The other pitcher that goodness.
Rod Lopez?
Yes, is on the IL. Their biggest free agent acquisition, Jurickson Profar, is now suspended for 80 games, and he can come back for the regular season, but he can't play in the postseason if they get there. So, they are a little vulnerable right now in terms of what is on the roster.
Yeah.
They can be had. So this is a time to go in there and win 2 of 3. Here are your pitching matchups for that series. It's Wheeler Sale, which honestly, from a pitching perspective, is a toss-up.
Yeah.
Because both of them are so good. It's a toss-up. Game 2 is Taijuan Walker and Bryce Elder. who the Phillies rake. The Phillies destroy Bryson.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if Walker even does half of what he did for you, you could potentially win that game. And then game 3 is a fun one. You're going to love it when I say it. Luzardo Schwellenbach.
There you go.
So get ready for the Schwellenbach game. There's 2 of 3 there. The potential is there.
Yeah, for sure.
So Regz, I think 4-2 would be a great next 6.
Oh yeah.
Because the Phillies schedule does thin out a little bit after these 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
They go to St. Louis, and then I think they come home for 7 against San Francisco and Miami, which, things line up pretty nicely for you in that regard. You get 7 at home, you go to New York for another pretty big series in April, and then Chicago, and you end with Washington.
Yeah.
So, you're after these 6, you have a nice stretch of, I'd say, 10 games where you can rack up some wins.
Yeah, for sure.
With St. Louis, San Francisco, and Miami before you go to New York. So get 4-2 out of this.
Yeah.
Get 4-2. At 3-3 is fine, but 4-2 would be a really nice, like, oh my gosh, we're 9-3.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Let's rock a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, that's a nice spot to be in. You bury the Braves a little bit more. And you want to get them while they're down.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You want to try and
Absolutely.
put them
Yeah.
in as big of a hole as possible.
Yeah. Yep.
As big of a hole as possible.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. Anything else for the good of the cause?
I told you I was gonna weave this in. I haven't sent an angry text. I've clarified
Right.
in some of my text messages, just slight annoyance, not angry. I am watching the games like a psychopath, and I'd like to say why. I've started to take the approach with my sons at baseball, purely positive. No more looking at dad for what did I do wrong. Nope. You're doing great. Keep it up. If you want to talk about something, perfect. Happy to talk to you, but don't look at me, right? You're doing great. Have fun. Go for it. I think now, because I am not criticizing, I'm crazily watching these games like a maniac. So internally, I'm fuming. I'm just not. It's just me by myself, luckily. But all that energy is now like morphed into them playing the Rockies, and me being like overly upset that they strike out 3 times against Kyle Freeland with the bases loaded.
Well, it hasn't come through in your text yet.
No, on purpose. But yeah, I'm getting it all out just like while I'm sitting here by myself, and watching these games. That's where all the energy has come. It just is. It just is transferred.
It's part of the fan experience, man. It's part of the fan experience. I did have a mini meltdown in the 9th inning of today's game when I was like, dude, you just got their strikes.
Yeah.
Or JT, go talk to him.
Right.
Go talk to him.
Yeah.
No,
but that's all. I love that
think
baseball's back. I love having something to watch every day. I just love it. I love it.
It's good. It's good stuff. We're happy that it's here, and we're happy that it's a 5-1 start.
Oh yeah.
So enjoy it while you got it. Big series starts
Oh yeah,
tomorrow.
it's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun.
Let's have some fun. Let's enjoy it. Sit back and watch 2 of the better teams in baseball, hook horns, and hope that our guys win the first one, and then all you got to do is win 1, 2, and you feel good about yourselves going into an off day and going into Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much for listening. Make sure you click that subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Go to wherever you get your podcasts, click follow and rate, and then head over to social media at the Mic Drop 5 at Big Regz with a Z on Twitter. Go ahead over to the Phixated fan page on Facebook. Over to TikTok. Get us up to 200. We're almost there at the Phixated Pod.
That's right.
And then Instagram, brand new Instagram at the Phixated Podcast on Instagram, where again I gotta start loading these videos on there. But make sure you do all of that and click the merchandise link in the show description. Regz, I want to make a t-shirt that says "I'm not angry yet."
Yeah.
and put that like on a cell phone.
Yeah.
I'm not angry yet.
Yeah.
With the fixated thing is like the icon.
I'd like that.
So we'll see if we can do that. I think that's a good one for us to have. We're not there yet. Maybe soon.
Maybe that'll be a TikTok bit. It'll just start with "I'm not angry yet, but."
You should do that.
I should.
I think people would love it. People would love it. I'm not angry yet, but because I do all the positive things on TikTok.
That's
I think
right.
that would be a really cool shtick.
It would.
That like you do the angry stuff, I do the everything's fine.
We'll call it a shtick and not act like that's actually what happens in real life.
It's true. It's true. All right. Well, we love you guys. Thanks so much for take care of yourselves. Take care this week, and we'll be back next Thursday with an episode recapping these 6 games, looking a little bit more forward to the Eagles draft and looking ahead to series with the Cardinals and the Giants. But until then, go Phils. All right, LA, welcome in.
Go Phils. Beat LA.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.